How you doing? Hopefully very well. Hopefully all your hopes and dreams are coming true. Let's get going. All right. America. Come on, guys, admit it. We're in deep doo-doo, right? Things are not going right, and we're under attack. But what is it exactly? What is it that they're going for? What is it about America that's under attack? Because I never hear that. Usually it's the election cycle or the our rights, right? A lot of different things. And that is all part of it. But to the core, it's Western culture. It's our culture that's under attack, right? It's our foundation, right? What statues are they tearing down, right? What are they teaching in school, right? They're changing the names of schools and streets and everything else, right? Of our founders. That's a Jefferson monument. It's got to go, right? They are attacking the very roots of our country, of our culture, of our way of life. Admit it. Stop dancing around the talking points of Sean Hannity. It's much bigger than that. And it's big, and it's easy to solve, but you have to admit a few things first. So Western culture is under attack, right? What is Western culture? It's the people, the nature of these people, right? The achievements, our history, right? What's at the basis of all that? God, creation, right? What is that? The belief in God, divine authority, right? Judgment, the afterlife, and the fact that God is our creator. He is the ultimate authority who has this power to perform miracles, and it goes on. But as basic, we were all sheep, and God just happens to be the shepherd of the West. Okay, understanding that. Western culture and God. What are the milestones to tyranny? What is it that tyrants wish to achieve, that are striving for full speed? I mean, pedal to the metal, right? What is it? A death of the West, right? Because you cannot control, whether it be one plot of land or the world, you cannot have full control with Western people, right? Because we rise against that stuff, right? I mean, okay, you look at all these other nations. What flag are they flying when they're going out and shouting freedom, right? You've got Hong Kong, you've got Cuba, you've got... there is nations and countries all around this world, right now even, holding the American flag. If that's not powerful, I don't know what is. I mean, our kids are burning it here. I mean, they're lighting them up in the street, but then people that are actually oppressed, that actually know what oppression is, because nobody in this nation knows what oppression is, period. It's all there is to it. We've all lived a luxurious life by all standards of history, of even current conditions in the world. We're a bunch of spoiled brats, and you kids that are burning this flag, sorry, but history's not on your side. Regardless, they're holding our flag. So, death of the West, because that is in the minds of the tyrants very toxic, right? To the idea of tyranny. So what does that mean, death of the West? Well, it's a psychological transformation of its people, or anybody that supports it, for that matter, right? Psychological transformation. So they can't have this natural mindset of Westmen, of Western kind. It has to be, you have to transform these people. Ultimately, you have to change us to the core, right? Because liberty, once planted, liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. And the thing is, those that wish to control understand that very well. They need to kill that seed of liberty, okay? Absolute fabrication of our formation as a nation is what I'm getting at here. You can't talk about all the greatness that is America. You can't talk about the greatness that is the West and how we've brought so many people out of oppressive conditions and provided opportunity. That's why people flock here, by the way. Now they flock here because of promised free goods, plus the belief in the idea of liberty. But prior to that, people were literally they were willing to die in the desert to get away from where they were at to make it here to the promised land, the land of God. It's pretty phenomenal, actually. It is absolutely phenomenal the conditions people were willing to endure just to make it here, right? Yet the kids of this nation are shouting death to America. You spoiled brats. Okay. Total erasure of our culture. Again, that's the same thing. Psychological transformation and absolute fabrication of our formation. An erasure of our culture. They want us to reject our natural way, right? Our natural inclination to freedom and to do what's right, right? They want that dead. They want that character trait dead in this world. Because if it's one man that's got it left, guess what? It's going to spread. It just is. They've tried to kill Christianity, right? That's been going on forever. And you can't. You can't kill an idea. You just can't. All right. So creation of God. What is the milestone to kill that, or to, defeat that thought process or that idea? Well, it's worship the King. Government. Government is your new God, right? And the thing is, that's not new, because I don't know what the percentages are here, but what I do know from where we're at right now, and just the actions of people even the last year and a half or two, is knowing that we're all sheep. The only difference between us, and this plays out in reality, tangible evidence here, is our shepherd. It's the only difference. You see, Westmen, the Western kind, they're willing to go to the grave with God being their shepherd, because they know that to be true. Well, a man that's lost and deceived and has been subject to public schooling and the absolute unbelievable force of propaganda through the media, social media, they believe that government is their God. They won't use the word God, but they sure do act like government's God, don't they? They sure do. You're going to kneel to the King, right? If you have erased God and the idea of creation, and government is now, in the minds of everybody, God, that's the whole goal, right, of killing God. They're just promoting themselves as God. Well, you're going to kneel to that God, just as Christians kneel to only God, never to man. Well, you get rid of God, well, Christians, it won't be Christians, but everybody will kneel to this entity, which they are going to claim themselves as God. Worship the King, which is government. Authority without question. Well, if you're the highest authority of all the cosmos, of everything, if you're the highest authority, guess what? You're not going to question that authority, because they're not going to lie to you. They created you. Natural order erased. What I mean by that is look what's happening in the world. Okay? Look what's happening in the world. The natural order, which would be God, man, woman, child, it's the household, right? You procreate, you raise your children with understanding that God is the ultimate authority, right? And so on and so on. And you keep this natural order, and there's a way of life. Well, that promotes freedom, right? So that's a bad thing in the eyes of tyranny. But there's this natural order, and there's the natural restrictions on, say, pleasure, right? You know what's right and wrong, or if you don't, it's described to you pretty well. If it's not a natural feeling, you know what you can and can't do based on the book, the holy book, the Bible, right? So it promotes this natural order where you don't really need a big authority figure on this earth to keep things in check. Now you have one, right, very small, more localized, to keep things, for those that do get out of order, right, and someone that hurts someone else or violates someone else's rights, They need to be checked, and that all comes from this. But if you get rid of that idea, you get rid of the natural order, right? Look what government's doing, or those that are funded by government, your media, right? You've got doctors. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. And I don't know if it's based off fear of persecution by the public or money, but they're promoting the idea that there's basic biology doesn't exist anymore. Right? Basic biology. I mean, I challenge you. When you go to bed tonight, before you do that, or when you take your shower, look at yourself in the mirror. There's only one of two things going to be there. I want you to note this down, check in the morning. But what I'm getting at is, come on, guys. You don't even know what bathroom to use anymore. The natural order's gone. You're rejecting the family, right? You've got men with men adopting kids, teaching those kids that that's acceptable. Look, you want to do that? You do that. You're going to face judgment by God. I know what that ends up as. I'm not going to myself engage or promote it, but I cast no stones. But you expose my children to it, I have a big problem. Anyways, natural order is erased. They get rid of everything. They pervert everybody's mind. It's a poison, right? You're going to pursue, that ties it right in with this. You're going to pursue all temptations as you only live once. There is no afterlife. There is no judgment. Guess what? How does Satanism work? Do not deny pleasure. Pleasure is good. You get rid of all self-control. That's what happens here when you end the idea of God. Now, why would they do this? Why? How does this end up in tyranny, right? How? Well, death of the West. You get rid of all the natural features that is the West, our natural characteristics. What do you end up with, right? Keep in mind a natural characteristic of the West is to be, self-governed, right? Self-reliant, good-hearted for the most, not always, but live in a peaceful manner. You don't cross that line, I don't cross your line, whatever, right? You're able to live in a harmonious balance. You care more about serving your God and teaching your children to do that than you do about hurting somebody else. Typically, you can self-govern. You can live on your own. Well, what happens when you end that? You end that. You get a world of submissive men, molded to accept a new order, and live under a paternalistic state. Like I said before, we are all sheep. The only difference between us is who our shepherd is. Guess what? There's only two shepherds. God, a divine power, or government. Right? And men that reject the truth. Well, that's just obvious, because if you get rid of truth, you get rid of the natural order, they don't even have the understanding of what truth is anymore, because they've completely, through propaganda, media, and everything else, created a false reality you're living in. When truth is introduced to them, they're going to project it. That is BS. My teacher did not tell me that. Right? My teacher said there's multiple genders. How dare you? Usually they scream, there's a lisp and a higher pitched voice to it, but regardless, they reject the truth. Right? It's obvious. You see that today. All right? That's the death of us. That's the whole idea. You get people willing to accept the tyranny. What about the idea of creating an illusion that government is your God, that government is the creator, that government is the absolute authority of everything? Well, they get absolute authority, right? I mean, look, and not even just Christianity, multiple religions here. They die for their God, right? I mean, they are willing to absolutely die. They are willing to accept all persecution in the name of their Lord, right? Pretty powerful stuff. It's pretty powerful. So what do they get if they become that? They become God, willing to die for it, willing to turn in your brother, willing to turn in your neighbor, your father, if they go against that authority, God, right? They get an absolutely compliant people when they become God, right? Yet the oppressed worshiping the oppressor. You don't even know you're being oppressed. You don't even realize the potential that you have with freedom, with the idea of the West, the traditional values of the West. What is provided to the world? You're in this bubble, and you are told that that is how life works, and there is nothing better for you. Although I do feel that as much as they try to dumb us down through public schooling and whatnot, and the propaganda and all the idols that they have out there for us, I do think that there's a natural inclination to question and have something better. You know that there's something better, and I think it's going to be our saving grace. All right, and the power of worship. You will have the power of worship. That's powerful. It really is. You get a congregation of people coming together, worshiping something, worshiping God, right? That ties right in with the idea that people are willing to die for that, right? It's powerful. It's strong. It's addictive. It's influential, right? You get people going to government churches where, who knows who'll be the face? Who's got it right now? Who is it? Dr. Fauci, right? Dr. Fauci. He said that masks were 100% useless. They did nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then he said, you need to wear 2. And what did everybody do? They put 2 on, 3 on. And what did they do? They took Facebook pictures and talked about how much of heroes they were. The narcissism is so rampant and so sick. You people are sick, the ones that promote that. You are sick in the head. Sorry, but you are. All right? So what's the conclusion here? The fact is, you end the West, and you end the entire culture that is the West, right? What seems to be their milestones. You're going to end up with some form of tyranny. You're going to end up with an authoritarian regime, and knowing that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You will see where that goes. Now, it sure does seem to be at the core or the motive of all these actions by our government currently. And they dangle a lot of carrots, right? A lot of carrots. They put a lot of saviors, in power. They call saviors. And they end up stabbing you in the back, but that's besides the point. What I'm getting at is there's a lot of illusion, a lot of deception, a lot of, things to get in the way of what's reality, right? You're chasing, take this for instance. The recall, California, Gavin Newsom. There's a lot of effort spent. Very honorable, actually. I call them winter soldiers, the people that have continued past the election process, the presidential election process, and focused at the state level. That's amazing. It really is. But I almost wonder if we would have been so much more fruitful in changing things if we had put all that energy into focusing in our hometowns, right? But it's not fun. It's not newsworthy media coverage. There's no media coverage of that. But if you went and took your board of supervisors and you went and the corruption is not going to be as prominent at the local level, right? If you were able to just focus on the local level, your home, your backyard, all these people you gathered up to go out and do the recall, but you did this at home with your board of supervisors, oh man, that would be revolutionary. But we chased the carrot, the big idea. We always do, we always will. Anyways, not knocking on you guys. Thank you guys for your service to your country. Protect the West. Protect the West for freedom. Live free or die.